All right. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law.
Love is the law, love under will.
Welcome to Sekhet-Maat Oasis, Qabalah 101 class. Frater Audeo and this is Soror Luz-y. Welcome, and we're glad that you're joining us today. Disclaimer, your mileage may vary. Information you hear is based on my opinion and my own research. It is just that as well. It is, and I am a student as well as you. I put on these classes because I enjoy the Qabalah. I love to learn about it, and but it does not make me the foremost expert in the Kabbalistic text or anything else. I just enjoy it, and I enjoy presenting the information. So I may say things different than what you've heard before. I may say things that you don't agree with. And you know what? That's okay. That's just how we all learn, and we all learn with each other. Another thing that I would like to bring up is that we are a opening initiating body, but currently we can't initiate, we can't hold our Gnostic Mass, which normally we would be able to use almost like a fundraiser every month. So we still pay for rent, we still have costs. So if you can, if it's your will, $5 to $10 would help us greatly to continue the mission of offering these events in the future and keeping the doors open for those now and later. You can give that donation to pdx.oto.org. And thank you for being here. And remember, the class is free, but if you can donate, that's awesome as well. So. All right, today we're doing the 8th path of wisdom. The Sphere of Mercury, Hod, is on the tree of life, and Hod means splendor. The word, or the letters, the Hebrew letters that make it up are Hod, Lav, Daleth, which add up to 15. Kokab is the sphere of Mercury, and that is the heaven or the palace of Asia where Mercury is located. So it's on the pillar of severity. So if you were looking at it, it's on the right-hand path of the tree. It would come down the right side of your body. If it would be at the very base on your hip if you were to place the tree of life onto your body. It's the sphere of reason or intellect, the sphere of mental activity. It's part of the Ruach that is we've went through so far through Yesod, which is our subconsciousness, the astral world. Now we are going tangible, physical, and it is not physical, it is mental. It's where we put pictures together, basically, to bring down into Yesod prior to. It's the creative, the self-conscious aspect, as opposed to the subconsciousness of Yesod. The Ogdod is a word associated with it. Ogdod, also change and stability. And Ogdod is simply something that means 8. In Gnosticism, it's a group of 8 divine beings or 8 aeons. Gnosticism, another definition would be the seat of the rule of the higher archon and his son. In Egyptian mythology, 8 primordial deities worshipped in Hermopolis. In Hermopolis is a city sacred to Hermes. The color of Hod in the king's scale is violet purple. Queen scale is orange, which you're most commonly going to see on most trees. It will be orange in color. And the prince scale is russet. The princess scale is yellowish yellow, brown, flecked white. So I just showed the bottom side of the tree, which are the paths that we've already traveled and the paths that are open to us currently. The paths are, we're going up the tree incrementally, and each time we pass another gate, as they're called, there's 5 gates going into Hode, and only 2 of them are open to us right now. You can jump over the fence and get in there quicker, but traditionally you would go in the manner that we did from Tav up to Yesod, and then back from Melkuth we would go up to Hode through Sheen, and then from Yesod we would go over the path of Resh to Hode. And now that we've cleared those 2 gates, the Resh and the Shin, we now have access to Hode. Hode is called the perfect or absolute intelligence, and it is concerning what is written. The preparation of principles emanates therefrom. Shalom translates as perfect, and just as plants are cultivated by a gardener, so may the function of foresight and confident expectation be developed by intelligent practices directed to that end. What does all that mean? It's basically learning to have the proper thought and the proper pictures associated with it. But we need the pictures to manifest in our life what we desire, what we put in our mind. We have to use proper symbols. We have to use appropriate language in our self-conscious awareness, so that later on translates to our subconsciousness in a proper fashion, in a way that subconsciousness understands. And most of us think in pictures, and that is representative of Hode and that part of our intelligence that does that. There's a quote from Eliphas Levi that kind of explains what that is when we make pictures. This is from The Mysteries of Magic. There exists a force in nature which is far more powerful than steam, by means of which a single man who can master it and knows how to direct it might throw the world into confusion and transform its face. It is diffused throughout infinity. It is the substance of heaven and earth. When it produces radiance, it is called light. It is a substance in motion at one and the same time. It is a fluid and a perpetual vibration. In infinite space, it is ether or etherized light. It becomes astral light in the stars, which it magnetizes, while in organized beings, it becomes magnetic light or fluid. The will of intelligent beings acts directly on this light, and by means thereof upon all nature, which is made subject to the modification of intelligence. And also, the other note on that is out of The Mysteries of Magic, but I'm reading it out of the True and Invisible Rosicrucian Order. It's a separate book that quotes him in that book. So, it really explains what it means, what I'm trying to, it puts a lot more of a better way to explain that astral light, making conscious physical forms in our mind. It's basically malleable. So the things that we think about over and over again, we're giving those impressions to our subconscious mind afterwards, that the self-conscious awareness feeds the subconscious awareness. So we need to be very cautious and conscious of what we choose to feed our subconsciousness, because our subconscious mind is going to take it and run with it. It'll do whatever kind of stimulus we apply to it, it'll take it and run with it. It doesn't care. It doesn't have a filter of, I shouldn't do this, I shouldn't do that. Whatever images you are making in your mind on a repetitive matter or repetitive time and over again, it's just going to manifest for you. It's going to make that your reality. The subconscious mind is amazing with that ability. It takes your ideas and runs with it. And whether those ideas are based in truth or something completely false that you are telling yourself is true, it doesn't know the difference. It's going to take it and go. Let's see. It's part of the part of the soul is the ruach, attributed to the element of water. And water, it seems like it would be a fiery path. You've got Shin and Resh both tying into that. But it's because the mental mind is associated with water, your thoughts, the ocean. It's also below, 2 spheres below Binah, the Great Sea. So there again, it also works for water. The magical image is the hermaphrodite, Hermes being hermaphrodite, and also it's more of a fluid nature. It's that that ability to be what it needs to be at any time. That fluid astral light, the way it, like I was talking about, of making the positive mental images, it doesn't have to be positive. It can be negative. Your mind will take it and run. It can be either or. So it's a very fitting symbol. It's associated with the 3/8 grade in the AA system, or the Golden Dawn, which is called practicus, he who practices. The nerve troubles, things that are, any type of disease of the nerves can be associated with the sphere. And if you look at the Thoth Tarot, this is, that's Hod spelled out. Every time we do a class, I like to try to spell out either the path or the letter or the word itself. And here we have a break from tradition with the Crowley Thoth Tarot, because in older tradition, the card that would be in the first, and Hebrews read from right to left, so it goes the star, the Hierophant, the Empress. In older decks, it would be the Emperor at the start of that, because Crowley, during the receiving the Book of the Law, there is a statement, all my letters are right, but Sadi is not the star. We've talked about it before, and he thought long and hard about it, and eventually he came to the idea that it should be the Emperor and Sadi that gets flipped, and so he flipped those on the Tree of Life. It's interesting. You've got a lot of subconscious cards for something that's relating very strongly to self-consciousness. But if you look deeper, you can see that the self-conscious awareness is there as well, because the star represents a subconscious action. It represents meditation, but it represents specific type of meditation, dharana, where one only focuses on one thing, and it's a focused sense. So it's more of an active card than it appears. The Hierophant is our higher self coming through and passing on wisdom. Hearing is associated with that card, so it's meditation to hearing. And then you have the Empress card, which is creativity, creative mind. It said that she's pregnant and that she's pregnant from she's inseminated from the act of the magician and the high priestess before her. And so what that means is exactly what I'm always rambling about the self-consciousness and the subconsciousness. And then what happens with that is you create a new child, a new babe, a new activity, a new life, something very specific that you asked for, like through your self-consciousness, and then your subconsciousness carries it out, and it's representative of that creativity coming out. This is how it's spelt with the BOTA deck. I wanted to include it because for me, that Emperor card, this is how the system I learned originally was BOTA, and through a kind of a Golden Dawn based system. So it's a way I understand Hode. Hode is a very thought filled. It's the sphere of Mercury. So you've got science and health and wisdom, and the Emperor really fits really well with that. The Emperor is all about reason and intellect and order and all of the things that are associated with Hode. So I included it this week just for that reason. Do with it what you will. Both systems are very, very full of thought and full of deep meaning. I just wanted to show a different way, so as well. All right, now we're getting into the divine names. The God name in Asya is Elohim Sabaoth. The archangel is Michael. The angel is, or the choir of angels is the Beni Elohim. And there you have an image of Hermes as well. The Egyptian gods associated with the sphere are Anubis and Thoth. In Hindu, Hanuman. Greek, Hermes. Scandinavian, Odin or Loki. And Roman, Mercury. And Mercury, he's the god of science, the god of reason, the god of communication. So communication is huge with this sphere. And also, oddly enough, Mercury also is he's a bullshitter. He's a storyteller. He's traditionally happy feeding you a line of shit. But it's all about communication and how you understand it and run with that. So just beware, that he can be facetious. And it's funny because the vice and the virtue for this path is truthfulness, and is the virtue, and the vice is dishonesty. And it's not necessarily lying, it's more about not being true to self, and not following the kind of the laws presented, not working within the system that you find yourself in, and that dishonesty can create a lot of issue in your life, a lot of chaos. Not that chaos is necessarily a bad thing, but working out, failing to work in your own model can create havoc, and not always pleasant. Not that that's not okay. Sometimes we need a little havoc and a lot of crazy circumstances to bring us into the new stage, their new evolution. Sometimes we have to go deep in order to come back. Deeper you go, sometimes the higher the spring back. And I certainly have achieved that in a healthy way and achieve that in a negative way. And it's all part of the process, and we learn and we move on. So the vision of splendor, it's pretty cool though. Ezekiel keeps getting, every time I would look up something, it always had a little quote about Ezekiel on the side. And I'm assuming that it's because of the wheels of Ezekiel, that the vision that Ezekiel had of the flaming wheels, that's often quoted and sometimes mistaken, or not even mistaken, I don't know, sometimes represented by like an alien vision or something that he was looking at. But another way to look at that is it was representative of that Kundalini energy rising all the way up to his ajna center and igniting that wheel, that the crown, the pineal, or the ajna chakra is right between on your forehead, between your eyebrows. And when that's illuminated, very oftentimes there is a wheel that is a blue and yellow with a white star in the middle of a blue field and a yellow background to it. And so could have been speaking of that as well. I suppose he's the only one that really knows. The magical weapons. Magical weapons are the versicles and the apron. So versicle is a statement. A lot of times it's liturgical. So out of liturgy, like a psalm perhaps is a versicle. Mantras or sacred songs. So chants, statements of intent, something that you would repeat. Like it's definitely a mantra in nature. Words of power, we will utilize before our path working today, apelpantos kakadaimenos. That is a versicle. That is a name of power that creates a specific thing that we are intending. Then you have an apron. Who's most popular that has aprons are the Masons. And it's all about circumscribing, controlling. So the magic of an apron, it demonstrates utilizing tools in order to circumscribe nature, in order to understand nature, utilizing the geometry. But a real big part of it is control, and learning that aspect of control over ourselves, how we present to the world. It's not a coincidence that the apron covers the genitals. It's shown to, it's placed there in order to not subdue, but a reminder to in many traditions, to sublimate that energy and utilize it for a specific purpose. Not that right or wrong or indifferent. That is what I know to be about the apron. So let's see. Okay, so since we are dealing with the 8th sphere, we also have every 8 in the pack has to deal with this, has to deal with Hod. And it's Hod in Atziluth, Hod in Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiya. And it's kind of cool because it shows the colors descending of each one of these in each card. The 8 of Wands is swiftness. That's 0 to 10 degrees Sag, November 23rd to the 2nd. The 4 color scales, because this is Mercury in Sagittarius. The colors for Mercury are yellow, purple, gray, indigo, red, violet. And then for Sagittarius are blue, yellow, green, dark, vivid blue. And there's always going to be 4 colors that I announce because those are going through from top to bottom of the color scales. And so that's taking that down from absolute down to ossia. And the 8 of Wands, it's a really good place. It's a good dignity. It's a good place for this card. It's where Mercury in Sagittarius, where the element of fire has been stabilized. Intense activity is represented by this card. The lower spheres, it's always rough for them to find a happy home. It found a happy home, this one. So, whereas the 8 of Cups, indolence, is Saturn in Pisces, and that's 0 to 10 degrees Pisces, February 19th through the 28th. Colors are indigo, black, black, and royal blue. For Pisces, crimson, but freckle or buff, freckle, silver, white, light, translucent, pinkish, and stone color. This isn't a happy place for cups. You'll notice that they're not all full. These two are pouring into the ocean instead of pouring down into the other cups. It's looking a little bleak. Indolence, I wasn't sure what indolence meant, so I had to look it up. And it's avoidance of activity, avoidance of activity or exertion, laziness. So not the best spot for that. And swords are always a little rough. 8 of Swords, interference, 0 to 10 degrees Gemini, May 21st through the 31st. That's Jupiter in Gemini. The scales of Jupiter are violet, blue, rich purple, blue, violet, royal yellow, Gemini, orange, pale mauve, new yellow, reddish gray. And this is a quote from Crowley: "The will is constantly thwarted by accidental interference." And it indicates that we need to really make our clear mental pictures, and the swords are that mental activity. So, and know that it can be done, but it's a fight because our mind is unruly. It kind of does what it likes a lot of times until we train it in kind of really in a really specific way. It likes to flip flop, likes to, kind of do what it wants. You just say, I'm going to go meditate, and all of a sudden your back's itching, your neck's itching. That's all that bullshit that the mind will do in order to keep you in check of what it considers in check, like under its control, and not you being the one that is running the dominion on that. The 8 of Discs is prudence. It's the sun in Virgo, 0 to 10 degrees Virgo, August 23rd, September 1st. The color scales are orange, gold yellow, rich amber, amber red. Virgo is green. It's a yellowish green. You can see that at the top of the card and on the top side of the leaves. And then slate gray, green gray, plum, Mercury both rolled. Mercury both rules this sign and is exalted in rules both. Let me try that one more time. Mercury both rules and is exalted in Virgo. So 8 of Dis, it's actually a fairly happy place because of that reason. Mercury's very comfortable here. Crowley signifies intelligence lovingly applied to material matters, especially those of the agriculturist, the artificer, and the engineer. So there is the 4 worlds and how those cards fit into it. And you can kind of see the descent of the power there. It's, I don't know, I always like stacking them up like that so I can get a better understanding of it. And why so. All right, so I think that's about enough minutia for us. For today,
Are there any questions?
yeah. Does anybody have any questions or comments or anything that they would like to talk about today? Good.
Anyone need to
Okay.
take a break before we get started?
Yeah. And talisman is spelled wrong.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right. I was just commenting that talisman was spelled wrong, so she just moved the screen down.
Yeah.
If you notice things disappearing, our side conversations are funny. So anyways, does anybody need to take a break or anything before we get started with the path working tonight? No? Okay. There's a symbol on the screen that's showing right now. That is what you're going to need to show your guide when asked for what is the symbol that you enter herein, and that's called a cartouche. It's a symbol of an Egyptian's ring, actually, that you'll hear more about it in the path working, and but that's the symbol that you are going to show when asked. Today, instead of doing a full banishing, we're going to do what is started during the star, utilized in the star ruby and other places. We say apopantos kakadaimenos, and we begin with your index finger against your lips, pressing against your lips, like that, and then you swing down. We'll start with a Kabbalistic cross first, too. So we can all mute, and so we don't hear each other. Everybody's muted anyways. But basically, if you don't know the Kabbalistic cross, first you visualize the great I Am, the great I Am above you, that consciousness with the divine, that consciousness of your highest innermost self above you, and see that clearly, a big bright ball of energy, and yearn for that communion, like you're reaching up into something real, very very much something that helps balance you and helps bring that divinity. Even though we constantly have it, it makes that conscious connection. And then we'll bring it into our forehead first. We'll come down to our chest, and when we do our forehead, we will say Ata, which means for thine or thou, down to our chest, and we'll vibrate Iwas, which is the thelemic current that we are associating with. It happens to be Crowley's holy guardian angel, but we utilize it as well until we know the name of our angel, and we will replace it at that point. And then take it down to your feet, or some say the genitals, either one, just bring it down. You're finishing that column of light, and we will vibrate the last sphere, which is Melkuth. That light will come up, back to the middle, and then out to the right, and it's Vegebura, which is the power, or Gebura. And then after you have that, we're going to cross to the left, and it's Vegedula, which is the glory. And then bring our hands together, interclasping the fingers, and that is going to be Leolam, Amen, forever and ever, Amen. And then when we do the Apopantos Kakadaimenos, so you'll put your finger like that. Apopantos Kakadaimenos. And then back to the sign of silence, and then we'll come back and we will read. And so the motion is from your lips back down, a slight step back, and a full swing of the arms. And it just basically, it means away evil spirits. It's effective, that burst of energy coming from the pursed lips allows, it's you'll see, it's very, it works. So.
And the wording one more time, Diane.
It's Apo Pontos Kakadaimenos.
Apo Quantos Cacodinum. Okay.
Yeah. Good. So now visualize that sphere above your head. Let it grow in size and intensity. Feel the tickling of that energy above your head. Now reach your arm up into it and draw some of that light consciously down into yourself, vibrating Ata. Now take that light down to the center of your chest and vibrate Iwas. Now let that energy descend down into your feet and vibrate Melkuth. Melkuth. Now take the energy from the center and out to your right and vibrate Vegebura. Vegebura. Back to the center and to the left and vibrate Vegedula. Vegedula. Taking a moment and see the shafts of light going from infinite up to infinite down and infinite right to infinite left. And when we vibrate Leolam, we see it extend from our chest and to our back, creating the dimensions. And we will vibrate Leolam, Amen. Leolam, Amen. Now give the sign of silence and allow that power that was just drawn into our body create a sealed vehicle, and let that power erupt into a statement of intent, which is Apopantos Kakadaimenos. Apopantos Kakadaimenos! Just let yourself relax. Plant your feet firmly on the floor. Get comfortable. Walking this into this sphere can be a longer one. Allow your breath to become normalized. Take a deep cleansing breath where you inhale deeply and then let out like a sigh. Couple of those. And then let your breath find a rhythm, a 4-count breath. Inhale for 4 counts. Hold for 4 counts. Exhale for 4 counts. Stay empty for 4 counts. Inhale for 4 counts. Hold for 4 counts. Exhale for 4 counts. Stay empty for 4 counts. Inhale for 4 counts. Hold for 4 counts. Exhale for 4 counts. Stay empty for 4 counts. Inhale for 4 counts. Hold for 4 counts. Exhale for 4 counts. Stay empty for 4 counts. Now drop your consciousness of your breath. Stay relaxed. Let your breath be your anchor. If you find your mind wandering, not able to focus on the words, go back to your breath. Your subconsciousness will do the rest. It may do it tonight in a dream. It may do it later in the week in a dream. If you can't focus on my words, focus on the breath. Not trying to control it, just being with it. Today, we're going to travel from Malkuth to Yesod to Hod. We're going to encounter the Archangel Michael and the angelic choir, the Beni Elohim. We're going to be granted the vision of the house of life, and that's the library of Thoth. The path emblem is the cartouche, and we carry that in our hand. It's the symbol of the royal ring. We enter the temple of Malkuth with the sign of the Enterer, followed by the sign of silence. We see Sandalphon there. Sandalphon takes us quickly up the path of Tav to the temple of Yesod. In Yesod, we greet Gabriel with the sign of the Enterer and the sign of silence. Gabriel gives us our violet sandals, and we place them on our feet. And then Gabriel quickly leads us up the path of Resh. We find ourselves standing at the end of the orange path of Resh, facing the door to the water temple of Hod. A large orange door is in front of you. Carved into this door is the letter He, painted in blue. We give the sign of the Enterer and step through the door into Hod. Once on the other side, we give the sign of silence. Taking a moment to take in the temple. The temple is an 8-sided chamber draped in curtains of orange silk. The floor is colored orange. Embedded into the floor is a figure of an octagon constructed from fire opals. The scent of storax is in the air, and the orange ceiling is ornamented with the large blue sigil of the planet Mercury. in the center of which is the image of a cup. 8 marble columns surround the central blue altar, on which is a disc of opal containing the sacred temple flame, a chalice of water, and a book with the figure of an octagram gracing its cover. On closer inspection, you see one word written on the book: knowledge. To announce your presence in the temple and call forth its inhabitants, the divine name Elohim Sabaoth is vibrated. Elohim Sabaoth. Followed by the archangel Michael. Followed again by the choir of angels. Many Elohim. Almost immediately, a mighty and shining figure appears, a dark-complected being in robes of orange, ornamented with a blue octagram on his breast. He has an angular face, piercing eyes, and a robust, sinewy frame. Thrown back from his shoulders are 2 enormous wings coated in orange and blue feathers. He carries a book tucked under one arm. Michael, Archangel of Hod, speaks to you. You have entered the realm of the absolute or perfect intelligence. By what symbol dost thou enter herein? You answer, by the symbol of the cartouche, and hold it up. It is a receptacle for God names and words of power. It is a worthy symbol for the realm of the intellect and communication. You face the archangel across the light of the altar. He directs your attention to the temple flame burning brightly on a disc of opal. Then he opens the book of knowledge lying on the altar. The temple around you suddenly seems to become transparent. It fades from view and is replaced by a cloud and mist. Gradually, you see before you what appears to be a dark, endless expanse of water. The vision is dim and murky, and the movement of the water seems like shadows shifting against other shadows. You hear Michael's voice above the roar of the sea. In the beginning was the Word, the Logos, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The same was in the beginning with God. All things came into existence through God, and apart from God, not even one thing came into existence. What God caused to exist was life, and the life was the light of humanity, and the light shineth in the darkness, and the darkness comprehendeth it not. Above the image of the dark sea, you see a brilliant light like an atomic explosion lighting up the night sky. The sound is deafening, and you almost feel the earth quaking beneath your feet from this impact. All you see now is divine white brilliance, which slowly settles into a rocky landscape against a clear blue sky. On a hilltop above you, you see a line of winged angels dressed in orange robes and holding staves. They are the Beni Elohim, the angel host of the Sphere of Hod. Each angel is surrounded by a halo of blue light. This, a sight that takes your breath away. Respectfully, you ask to know how the angels of Hod function in the 8th Sephira. An angel steps forward to address you. It is Mikael in his guise as ruler of the Beni Elohim. He speaks. In legend, we are the children of the gods who were attracted to the daughters of man, who came down from heaven to mingle with humanity and teach humanity the arts and sciences. It is written, the sons of the gods saw the daughters of men that they were fair, and they took them wives of all which they chose. The hidden meaning of this allegory points to our duty to interact with humanity on behalf of the divine. We impregnate the mind of man with knowledge and consciousness. We teach the arts of communication and magic. We are the thought forms of divine consciousness that are the immediate formers of human intelligence. We are the principles of God awareness in you. Before your eyes, Mikael changes his form. He transformed into the old gray bearded Renaissance philosopher holding up a lyre. The sight of his richly ornate apparel and broad-rimmed hat is mildly amusing. He looks for all the world like the artist Leonardo da Vinci. Mikael begins to explain. Hod is the sphere of images that are created by divine beings. These images are controlled by the mind and the will. Meditation on these images will reveal sublime truths. These holy images include all God forms, the personas and likeness of gods, goddesses, heroes, and archetypes that are formulated in the intellect of Hod. These are the forms and faces that the divine chooses to reveal itself to you, transforming itself in ways to help facilitate your understanding. Mikael changes back into his original archangelic appearance. He holds out his hand, and as he does so, the cartouche symbol in your hand begins to vibrate and glow with light. Observing this strange phenomenon, you see hieroglyphs appearing in the center of the cartouche. The main symbol within the cartouche is that of an ibis. Mikael tells you of its importance. This is the name of Thoth, Tohuti. This is the God form chosen by the divine to instruct you in the mysteries of Hod. Mikael, the line of angels and the hill they stood on all fade from your view in a swirl of orange mist. You find yourself standing in a vast room filled with books. It is obviously a library of some kind, and there seems to be all manner of books, both modern and ancient, lining the walls. There are hardcover books on shelves as well as papyri, which are kept in large clay jars. The concept of time seems irrelevant here. Egyptian scribes in simple linen kilts sit at long tables writing on sheets of papyrus. Next to them sit medieval monks in plain brown frocks, painting ornate letters in large, colorful manuscripts. On another table sits a man in a gray suit, working intently on a laptop computer. Sitting opposite him are two children speaking silently in American Sign Language. At the far end of the room is a large throne with a seated figure. The occupant of the throne is very familiar to you. The ibis-headed god seems like the very essence of serenity as he overlooks his library known as the House of Life. He wears the atef, a tall headdress of double feathers resting on the horns of a ram. It is a fitting symbol of dominion for the god of science, writing, and magic. He who is master of time, a god whose titles include the Lord of Holy Words, Lord of Heaven, and Thoth 3 times, very, very great. You humbly ask the god for some knowledge of the sphere of Hod. Thoth answers, humankind was made of life and light, transformed into soul and mind. The wickedness of a soul is ignorance. The virtue of the soul is knowledge. Knowledge is the gift of God. For all knowledge is incorporeal, but uses the mind as an instrument as the mind uses the body. Thoth then passes the palm of his hand in front of your face from left to right. As he does, the vision before you undulates like water that has been disturbed. The scene changes to a desert landscape. Now you see the image of the great goddess Isis, cradling the motionless body of a small child. Her sister, Nephthys, is weeping nearby. Both goddesses seem to be in a high state of distress. Scurrying away from the child is a black scorpion. The son of Isis has been stung, and the deadly poison of the scorpion has rendered him unconscious. The lament of the goddess is painful to listen to. Stung is Horus, O Ra, stung is thy son. Stung is the beautiful child of gold, the son of a Nefer. Shall Horus live for his mother? I pray to heaven, to the boat of the sun, a stop in its journey across the sky until Horus be brought back to life. The cries of the two goddesses reach to the heaven, and even the mighty sun god Ra stops the solar boat dead in the sky. Then Thoth, thrice great god, descends from heaven and to aid Isis in her sorrow. Thoth appears provided with his magic and possessing the words of power. He kneels over the lifeless body of the child. The god extends his hand over the dead Horus and intones a magical formula quietly in the Egyptian tongue. As he does so, you hear Michael's voice repeat the following words. The speech in the silence. The words against the son of night. The voice of Thoth before the universe in the presence of the eternal gods. The formulas of knowledge, the wisdom of breath, the radix of vibration, the shaking of the invisible, the rolling asunder of the darkness, the becoming visible of matter, the piercing of coils of the stooping dragon, the breaking forth of all the light. All these are in the knowledge of Thoth. At the ending of the night, at the limits of the light, Thoth stood before the unborn ones of time. Then was formulated the universe. Then came forth the gods thereof, the aeons, the bornless beyond, and the voice vibrated. Then was the name declared. At the threshold of the entrance between the universe and the infinite, in the sign of the enterer stood Thoth.
As before him were the aeons proclaimed, in breath did he vibrate them, in symbols did he record them, for betwixt the light and the darkness did he stand. Throughout the speech, you see a golden light flickering around Thoth's hands. The light spreads over the prone body of the young wounded god. Suddenly, the child takes a breath and opens his eyes. He calls out for his mother. Isis cries in delight and relief as her son Horus throws his arms around her. The goddess Nephthys praises Thoth in a heartfelt gratitude. Thou lordly Ibis, thou god for whom yearneth Hermopolis, let me tell of thy mighty works in whatever land I be. So will the multitude of men, great things are they that Thoth had done. Suddenly, several images cross your mind. See an elderly man sitting next to a dialysis machine, which filters his blood and allows him to survive chronic kidney disease. You see a young woman lying comfortably on an MRI table as her neck and back are magnetically scanned for injuries. You see people using sophisticated satellites and Doppler radar equipment to predict tornadoes and provide early storm warnings in order to save human lives. You see a myriad of inventions created over the years to improve the quality of human life, and you realize that all of these things are a result of the intellectual activities found in the Sephira of Audeo. Thoth appears before you and speaks. Knowledge used well with divine intent and ethical understanding can bring forth many wonders that aid humanity. However, knowledge used with an evil intent or without ethical understanding can bring forth many man-made horrors and art afflictions to humankind. Years ago, a priest named Nefer-Ka-Ptah desired to possess one of my most potent magical books for his own selfish pleasure. Through bribery, he discovered where I had hidden my book, and through evil magic, he killed the sacred serpent which guarded it. For this sacrilege against me, Nefer-Ka-Ptah paid with his life. Yet the evil that accompanies the misuse of knowledge continues to this day. Once again, Thoth passes the palm of his hand in front of you from left to right. As he does so, the vision before you quivers like an agitated pool of water. Several new images are presented to you. You see an entire rainforest cut down and burned for fuel. You see several acres of a mountain wilderness strip mined for coal. The land is completely devoid of life. You see a lake that is so polluted from industrial runoff that humans are advised to stay far away from it. You see a war plane raking a small village with cluster bombs that destroy everything in its path. You see guided missiles fired from a battleship to deliver their lethal payloads to a city hundreds of miles away. You see innumerable ways in which humans have abused knowledge with devastating consequences to themselves and to the environment, and you realize that all of these things are a result of the abasement of Hode energies. These terrible images fade from your view, and once again you are standing in the House of Life, the great library of books. The ibis-headed god looks at you with inscrutable black eyes. He addresses you once again on the nature of mind. Mind is one of the very substance of God. If indeed there is a substance of God, and of what nature that substance is, God alone knows precisely. There are two gifts which God has bestowed upon man, and no other mortal creature. These two are mind and speech. The gift of mind and speech is equivalent to that of immortality. If a man uses these two gifts rightly, he will differ in nothing from the immortals, or rather, he will differ from them only in this, that he is embodied upon earth, and when he quits the body, mind and speech will be his guides, and by them he will be brought into the troop of the gods, and the souls that have attained bliss. Speech is an image of mind, and mind is an image of God. Use these gifts wisely. Gradually, the library and its inhabitants begin to fade from your view. It's just you and Thoth. And you inquire if there's a personal message, a personal instruction for you today. Perhaps it's a symbol. Perhaps it's a sign, or an impression, or a feeling. Spend a little time with him. Learn to listen. The image of the great god Thoth lingers for a brief moment, and then it too vanishes in a flash of light. You find yourself in the Temple of Hod once again, standing in front of the altar across from Michael. Like your two previous Sephirotic experiences, the visions that were shown to you have occurred within the Temple of Hod. You never left the sanctuary. Michael, the Archangel of Hod and the leader of the Beni Elohim, gives you a few moments to get your bearings. He then closes the book of knowledge lying on the altar, thanking the Archangel for the glimpse into the mysteries of Hod. Quickly you descend the orange path of Resh from Hod to Yesod, where you briefly anoint yourself with oil and return the astral slippers. Descending the path of Tav, you find yourself in the temple of Malkuth in the company of Sandalphon. Turning to face the portal through which you first entered the temple, you give the sign of the enter and pass through it. Again, once on the other side, you give the sign of silence. Kind of slowly come on back. And we're going to do the Opopontos Kakadamenos one last time for those who would like to join. It basically clears the area once again. You go and play on the astral realm. Sometimes things can attach and things can kind of come on back with you. So it's usually recommended to banish it in one form or another. So, and we won't do the Kabbalistic crossage, just the Opopontos Kakadamenos. Apophatos crocodilos.